Doubtfire Deep Dive, we still have a great movie to talk about. A movie that we all hold near and dear to our hearts from our childhood. It is the 30th anniversary this year of Mrs. Doubtfire. So, Zach is the biggest fan of this movie.
No, Colin Cowherd is.
Colin Cowherd, yeah, because didn't he say it's the best comedy of all time?
He does like the cross-dressing movies.
Favorite comedy of all time.
He likes Victor Victoria. He likes
it's a real movie, just like Tootsie. Tootsie's funny.
He likes the Medea movies.
Oh man. Well, Zach, you're the biggest fan of this movie. Tell us your experience with it.
Well, listen, I mean, it's been a movie that's been a part of my life for a very long time. I can quote long passages from this movie. I was going to ask you what table they sat at. Table 39.
I was going to say, I knew that. It was 39. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that as well. You could go like various levels of complex questions with this movie, but it is a great movie, and it's a great Robin Williams performance. It holds up, I think, very well, although interesting in some ways. I think the big takeaway from me watching it this time, for what must be about the 68th time, is that I kind of feel like Daniel is an asshole. And I think that this movie stacks the deck in favor of him so much that we really come off with Sally Field as being a bitch in this movie. And that was a big theme in 90s movies, short-haired brunette women who are ex-wives being bitches to their comedian husbands. Can anyone else say the Santa Claus mom wife in that movie? Also high-pitched voice. But anyway, yes, so I'm not a huge fan of Daniel's gaslighting techniques. I don't really think he's much of a stickman either, even though he tries to hit on that woman at the private club, and that goes pretty terribly. And he, I guess, dated Tanya in another life, the coat girl, who he gave the death stare to when she tried to take her bags. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about. It's a great movie. I love it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, the ex-wife from Santa Claus and Sally Field should have played sisters in a movie.
I think that is a conspiracy. That's not even
I've always thought that too.
That's not even a complex enough statement to make a conspiracy theory. It's just obvious. They're the same person.
Does that mean Judge Reinhold should have been Bond?
There we go.
Yes. All right. What was his name in that again? Neil. Well, which is the bigger stick man, Neil or James Bond? That's the real question.
What's the worst name, Neil or Stu?
That's true.
It's more of a soup than a name.
So I remember growing up with this movie. Todd, I don't even remember the first time we watched it. Probably right around when it came onto TV for the first time, because we didn't really go to movie theaters much as kids. But yeah, I grew up with this movie. And here's the funny thing, though. I watched this movie this morning, and it was probably the first time I'd seen it in 20, 25 years. And I thought I remembered the movie well. I remember bits of this movie well. There were parts of this movie I did not remember at all. But it holds up. I watched it with my kids. My kids loved it. They loved it so much that as I came up here to record, and my wife asked them what they wanted to watch while we were recording, they asked to watch Mrs. Doubtfire again. So they're downstairs watching Mrs. Doubtfire right now.
They're throwing a party like they do in the movie, but
exactly.
Yeah, for me, like Terry said, I haven't seen this movie in a long time. Like I've seen it a lot. I've seen parts of it a lot. Probably like the last 45 minutes I've seen 20 times. But there are parts that I don't really remember very much at all. But at the same time, you could look at it from the point of view that I didn't even realize until this time watching it that he was drunk at the restaurant.
Oh, wow.
That's how long it's been since I watched it that I didn't even understand that he was drunk. Like, I just thought that he was getting confused and mixed up in what he was doing. And that's why he gets caught.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes it more uncomfortable and less slapsticky, the fact that he's drunk. It was a little tragic in a way, but I don't know. It's been a long time. I've always enjoyed the movie, and thought it had a big heart, and it is really funny. But I don't know. There are parts that I don't really get, and there are parts, and it is definitely a '90s movie. Like Zach was saying, like there was a thing where the father trying to reconnect with his children in the '90s. Like there was something that with like Big Daddy was that, and like like Santa Claus. There were a lot of these kind of movies, and this is just one of those that kind of gets lost in that nowadays. But I mean, it is one of the Robin Williams' shining moments.
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
everybody has their most iconic Robin Williams role, which I would assume for you, Todd, is Good Will Hunting. But for me, it will always be this movie. I mean, this is the first movie I think of when I think of Robin Williams, and it's a great performance.
I mean, Aladdin, yes,
probably
but
more than
he's
this.
not.
More
He's
than
not on screen.
Aladdin.
I'd probably think of Aladdin, but if you're gonna think of actually him being on screen doing his thing, nothing does that better than Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Probably more popular than Being Human or Bicentennial Man.
Well,
he had a lot of
Good Morning Vietnam was a very Robin Williams.
That's
role.
a good point. That was the first time he really showed everything he could do on screen. All right, who would Nicolas Cage play? I said if this was 1993, he totally could have been Stu.
Yeah, that would have been something. Well, in the early 2000s, he could have been Daniel. It's not all that dissimilar from a movie as like the Family Man or something. I think he could have done Daniel at one point.
Yeah.
I was going to say that maybe it's not a written role in the movie, but some other actor, maybe a competing actor or someone else who also does voices for Pudgy the Pig. Maybe a competition with another actor. Like, I feel like he could be another voice actor, maybe the voice of the cat or something.
He could have been Winston.
Oh,
if we got some
true. Yeah.
like illustrations of the stories that she's telling about her dead husband.
Or maybe
that would have been interesting.
Maybe he's Martin Mull in the one scene with Martin Mull as Sally Field's boss randomly.
Yeah, or is that 90s Giamatti? Because that's the other thing. Who would 90s Giamatti play?
Oh boy, I thought a lot about this question rewatching the movie because there are a lot of candidates here. I mean, we get the obvious one is the cameraman who falls asleep with the dinosaur show, right?
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I couldn't actually tell which character I was trying to figure. There were like 3 characters that all could be the character I was thinking of. It's either TV boss, ADR director Lou, or TV director. Whoever was the one that he was telling off, I think he calls him Lou, but he was the director.
Piss off, Lou. Yeah, Lou is a good Giamatti character. I also like
but there's a character called TV director, and that was the director.
But maybe it's the TV director in the Mrs. Doubtfire show at the end. The one who says, and cut.
Or what about TV boss? Is that maybe that's the guy behind the glass that they asked in the first? I don't know. Either one of those. He's any or all of those.
Yeah, I like the guys that he asks about the smoking because in My Best Friend's Wedding, his character is obviously also a smoker, a one-time smoker.
I put down.
He has to be working in the control room, right?
Well, that would be on brand. I said he could have been Brother Frank.
Nah,
it's too big of a role.
It is a big role, but
that would be funny.
He could have done it.
Yeah. Any more, and you'd be Mom.
See, it could work. It could work. All right. What does Adam think this movie is about?
Okay, I got this. He thinks it's another Judi Dench movie in the tradition of Mrs. Brown and Mrs. Henderson Presents. And then next comes Mrs. Doubtfire.
I think he thinks that this is a sequel to Firestarter, and it is the arch nemesis to the kid. The Firestarter's arch nemesis is Mrs. Doubtfire. And they battle it out. Kind of like an Iceman Pyro thing from X2.
So that's why she gets her hot flashes. Firestarter.
Yes.
I had 2 picks for Adam. I thought this is the story about Brock Purdy's backup on the San Francisco 49ers as quarterback when he gets knocked out in the playoffs. They have to bring in Euphigenia Doubtfire. Or it's a story about the dangers of smoking and a class action lawsuit brought by Hilary Swank by all the people who smoke at Table 39 and in Pudgy the Parrot,
while watching the cartoon.
while watching the cartoon.
Okay, we keep since Todd mentioned Keegan Michael Key, I can't help but think that that this name, what's the first name? I keep on forgetting it.
Euphigenia, which is supposedly a rearranged version of Huge Vagina.
Can't you hear Keegan Michael Key, Euphigenia Doubtfire, LSU University?
That's funny. That was a funny commentary. That was good. That's almost as good as your Peter Dinklage. I think I'm as Hannibal Lecter. Now I think that I'm going to see that the next time I watch this movie. Keegan Michael Key introducing himself, and LSU is the perfect college too.
All right. Highest war performance. Todd goes to who?
Well, it's got to be Robin, right?
This is one of the highest war of all time, I feel.
Just from the opening scene of him just doing his thing, which is the DVD cover menu thing, is him just singing that song. It's just like you are automatically in, and it's because it's him, and it's because of his energy and chaos that he brings to the whole movie. And there's nobody that did it ever like Robin Williams, and that's
okay. But Cage also sang opera in several movies. He sang opera in Moonstruck. He sang opera in The Family Man. I think Cage could have pulled off this role in 1993. Well, maybe more 1998.
Kind of sings opera in Face Off too, I think.
Yeah, and I think he likes opera.
Well, I'm not just saying the singing. I'm just everything. Like he's a better woman than Dustin Hoffman was. He's a better woman than Jack Lemmon was. I don't know. It's Robin Williams. He's the highest score.
Yeah, I feel like this kind of goes in the same category as like Jim Carrey and Liar Liar, where this movie was made for Robin Williams to do his thing, and no one else really could do it. Like Jim Carrey. Now that would have been an interesting one. I don't think it would have worked though. I don't think it would have worked quite the same. But yeah, Robin Williams. If I had one other thought, if you were going to go with anybody else, it's kind of impossible to think of anybody ever replacing Harvey Fierstein in a movie.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about that pick.
Because once he's there, he owns that performance, and you can't think of anybody else. Anybody else doing that voice and doing that performance.
Sort of like Jeremy Piven in like Rush Hour 2 or whatever, or isn't that what he's in?
I don't know. Oh, I think I know what you're saying. Yeah,
it's a similar character. I think that was Rush Hour.
I think Nathan Lane could have also been Mrs. Doubtfire. Like, I think there are several comic actors.
Nathan Lane could have been Frank.
That's true. Well, Nathan Lane and Robin Williams were a couple in The Birdcage, so maybe it's a parallel universe. I'm going with. I'm going to pull out the deck here early. I'm going to go with my Nobel Prize Committee from Beautiful Mind award as Austin Pendleton highest war. Because you're right, it's obviously Robin Williams, but my Austin Pendleton award for highest war is Scott Beach as the judge. That guy is a judge. Like, you look at that.
That's a good call.
You can now Sid Haig as that judge is funny. And he's Jackie Brown's judge, but this guy is a judge. He's very, elderly and statesman-like. And, you could see him in a variety. He probably had a guest spot on Boy Meets World where Corey gets a ticket or something. Like, he could have stepped into any role as a judge. And he's great. And apparently he was also the mayor in Stand By Me, which is very interesting. And he plays a wino in Getting Even with Dad with Macaulay Culkin and Ted Danson. Another 1993 classic.
So I was thinking of Jeremy Piven. It's Rush Hour. He plays the Versace salesman.
Okay.
It's a very similar role to Harvey Fierstein.
I know what you're talking about now. Man. That might need to be a deep dive this year. Was Rush Hour 98?
Yeah, 98.
Yeah, we might need to do that.
Never seen it.
Whoa. Okay.
I don't think he's seen any Brett Ratner movies other than X-Men First Class and now Red Dragon.
Okay. Be. Bill Paxton Memorial, worst performance of the film goes to who, Zach?
I'm trying to find. I'm going with Ralph Peduto as the cop who breaks up the farm animal party because he inexplicably speaks in a New York accent. Did you notice that? Hey, we got complaints about all these animals here. Gotta get them off your property. You know, I'm not doing a good accent, but why is there a New York accent? Did he not get the memo? This is a San Francisco movie. Not only that, is he not recognizing that this house is on a hill? Like, come on. I mean, it's pretty iconic San Francisco. Bad performance.
That's who I had written down too. Was
great. Okay, great. Well, it's getting you back for taking Sean Connery away from me. Another San Francisco movie. Why didn't we do Mount Rushmore of San Francisco movies, Jade?
So,
that would have been, or Dirty Harry, Bullet.
That's a good one.
My Bill Paxton role is Joseph Narducci as the delivery boy. I don't know. He's not even working for tips. He's just a dick, and I feel like that's just the actor that they got to play that role. I don't know. I mean, maybe that could have been Giamatti even. I don't know. It's just a weird little spot. And that actor's just like, no, I don't. Wasn't good.
I think that's a punchable face. He's fine, but he's very unlikable. That's also like a 1993 Chris Evans role, maybe. Well, he might have been too young, but that's like an early Chris. That's like the not another teen movie Chris Evans role. Whatever happened to that actor? Did he ever do anything? Delivery
Chris
guy?
Evans?
No,
the delivery guy.
Joseph Narducci.
Yeah,
not a whole lot here.
Did he become the head coach at Pitt? No, that's Pat Narduzzi.
He did a movie this year called Why the Nativity.
That's a producer credit. He's got 5 acting credits. This is his only. No, he's got one in the movie To Save a Life in 2009.
I bet he probably gets recognized as a delivery guy a lot. I think that's the kind of role where you remember that face and that attitude.
I remember this movie. It was one of the first the Christian set of movies. Like it was like the start of the Christian movie like push. So I've heard of this. I never saw it, but I've heard of this. And he's in it. Does he even have? He's like not even. He's last billed on the top cast page on IMDb. So, a bad forgotten Christian studio movie is and he's last on there. That's his only other movie credit. So, good. He's a good one. Amazing Larry Big Tim High Roller Award goes to. I'm gonna go first on this one. I went with Sydney Walker as the bus driver.
Mediterranean women.
Yeah, he
kind of a stick man.
He is. He kind of fills the role of like Charles Durning in Tootsie, as just that
good comparison.
That lovable, warm old man just looking for a companion, and instant attraction, and then realizes no, maybe not. But he's great. He's a great role. Zach, what do you got?
So many good picks here. I think we should spend the whole episode on the bit roles in this movie because there's so many goddamn good ones. I really want to go with Mr. Sprinkles, aka the dinosaur host. I wonder if he saw Jurassic Park in this year and just thought it was a missed opportunity, because then his show could have blown up really, but he becomes a mailman, which is funny. I also really love Tony, and which is crazy because Tony does not appear to have an IMDb credit. I don't know who plays that role, but you box him, you ship him. Lots of luck, smartass. That's a great line, and you definitely want to know more.
Maybe that's the TV boss.
That could be, yeah. Joe Bellin, is that right? Maybe, and just recently died last year at the age of 90. Yeah, so there's definitely that too. So minor character. I guess I'll go with Tony. Because he's pretty awesome. Yeah. I want to know more about that character and why you have to box and ship so many things. Why that takes another job to do, I guess. But he's great. I also want to know a lot more about the staff at Bridges, in particular Tanya, the coat girl, and the guy at the front, the maitre d' guy the guy who's seating everybody, and then the waiter. I had a recasting for the waiter. The waiter for Daniel and Mr. Lundy would be played by MC Gainey.
There we go.
He's got the tie out. He's got kind of a loose attitude. And you could probably see him stripping down naked and throwing his dick in front of the camera.
Joe Bellin only has 2 pictures on IMDb, and they're him with Clint Eastwood in the 1983 film Sudden Impact, which was also a San Francisco movie, by the way.
Lots of great San Francisco movies.
That's got to be who that was then.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
I mean,
He kind of reminds me of Paulie's boss in Rocky something.
Oh,
that's true.
Yeah.
It's a Burgess Meredith character, which is also why he probably was a stickman.
All right, Todd.
All right. So I had 2 others written down. I really like Mrs. Sellner, who obviously was in Liar Liar as well. She's just a really she's a really quirky character. She really, and she puts the pie on her face at the end. That's a really funny moment, and I don't know. She's always a highlight whenever I see her. And I also like Aunt Jack, played by Scott Capurro. He's just there. He fits for some reason when they start singing that song. And like every
matchmaker, give me a match.
You need, it's one of those characters that he fits so well. You just need no other explanation as to why he's there. It's like you already know just by looking at him. Like you know exactly where he stands. And I love it's a cool character. And then those 2 could have had their own like side
Spin-off
movie or something. Yeah.
And if you think about it, they're Oscar winners because this movie won for makeup, but it was the makeup they did in the movie.
Great call.
They should have credited them like the Donald Kaufman thing, just like Aunt Jack and Uncle whatever his name is.
Did they get royalties from the Mrs. Doubtfire show for coming up with the makeup?
I don't know. Maybe. I just want to say Anne Haney, between this and Liar Liar, like she had a good run there where she was basically every 90s comedian's like Margaret Dumont, like Marx Brothers, the straight woman that is her job is to just stand there and be appalled by the complete insanity that's going on around her. She does it better than anybody.
With the American president too, right?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Another deep dive. This is our 3rd deep dive with her in it.
We should just call ourselves the Anne Haney podcast.
Yeah, we gotta check out what else we can do from her. Okay, Stickman, Swigert Stickman, the newly named Uncle Douchebag, and and the Robert Forster Memorial Most Punchable Face Award. Todd, you're first.
The Spider Stickman.
Swigert Stickman. We changed it to Swigert.
Right. I gotta change.
We could go with Spider if we wanted to.
Swigert works too.
Yeah.
I like Zach already kind of spoiled that. I said the bus driver because like he sees Euphrid and I get on the bus and he was trying to smash. Like he was like he's like, oh hey there lady or whatever. I mean he probably gets some as a bus driver. Like there need to be more movies about bus drivers. We have a lot of bus drivers on these deep dives we do.
How about a Mount Rushmore of bus drivers? I think he's a solid candidate along with Sam from Speed.
And Chris Farley and Billy Madison.
That's where my brain went right away.
And Dolores from The Sweet Hereafter. I mean, she crashed the bus, but I don't think we can hold that against her.
Or that old lady in Forrest Gump. And now we're no longer strangers.
Who's the bus driver in
the bus to school?
Who's the bus driver in League of Their Own, Terry? Does he deserve a spot too?
Oh, where's Lou?
Lou, that's right. What
Who
about
quit?
Almost Famous? Who drives the bus in Almost Famous? Who
Yeah, that's a
drives
good
Doris?
question, too.
Oh man, I don't know.
Yeah.
Not Jimmy Fallon.
That's true. All right,
really quick.
Okay, go
Apparently,
for it.
Anne Haney was a teacher in an episode of Boy Meets World.
Robert De Niro.
Which
How could we
episode?
forget Robert De Niro in This Boy's Life? Isn't he a bus driver in that shit too?
Is he a bus driver in a Bronx Tale?
Bronx Tale. I'm sorry, I always confuse those movies. I'm
Now
sorry.
I lost it.
Oh,
Anne
Mrs.
Haney was what?
Nielsen.
Mrs. Nelson. Yeah, Mrs. Nelson in an episode of Boy
It's
Meets
like
World.
the college years, I think.
Season
see
7,
the-
episode 8, The Honeymooners. I'll go next.
Wait, no,
Todd has
I
to finish out. Yeah.
Was there
Yeah,
ever an
I only
episode
got
where-
through Stickman. I was talking about the bus driver. I thought that was a pretty simple one, but those are one of our coolest.
Wasn't there an
candidates ever.
episode where Eric dressed in drag?
Yeah, there's multiple episodes where they dress in drag.
My favorite is when he
Jack and
becomes a
Eric have to
hermit,
dress in
plays with
drag in
squirrels.
order to not get beat up. I think. Corey and Sean dress in drag in one episode too. Okay, the Uncle Douchebag Award I'm giving to the kids across the street who are laughing at Daniel while he's changing and laughing at him losing his face. Like those kids are just little bitches. They rat him out
Wow.
to their mother. Yeah, little douchebags.
Wait, they rat him out to their mother?
Well, yeah, when they see that
did
he's
that
that
happen?
he's got
Oh yeah, they do say "Mom." Yeah, I remember that.
and then that's when he's like shutting the window and loses his face, and then they laugh at him. Then the Robert Forster most punchable face, I went with Drew Letchworth as Daniel's attorney, because he's pretty incompetent and he has that weaselly little smirk about him. He's like the character in Better Call Saul that Jimmy always gets annoyed by. I think his name's Bill. He looks kind of like him. He's got that big old punchable nose, and yeah, Daniel's attorney.
I always thought he looked like Gene Siskel.
There's a little bit of that too.
I can see that.
That's my recasting. Gene Siskel as the attorney who gets fired.
So I'll go next because he was my Uncle Douchebag, Daniel's attorney.
I mean, he did.
Just
What kind of case could you put up for with this guy? Like he's out of work, he's unstable, ends up dressing like a woman and messing everybody's lives up.
can't you say something? No, I mean he's already decided. And it's like, well, we'll revisit in
Well,
30
he doesn't
days.
dress like a woman when he's on. He doesn't. He goes as his own counsel at the end. Zach, he's only at the beginning.
You've got some hope there at the end. He's horrible. My stickman. The stickman is Stu, right? I mean,
Stu is a Hall of Fame. If we're talking Hall of Fame announcement for Stickmen this year, we're at 30-year anniversary. Stu's name could come up on Tuesday.
It could.
He should be at least considered along with Scott Rowland and
my
Billy
most
Wagner.
my most punchable face is Molly McClure as woman housekeeper. She's the one at the end. I don't do this. I don't do this. I don't do this. I don't do
diapers.
This. I don't do diapers. I don't do reading. Yeah. And I felt like that scene should have ended with Mike Myers walking in as Austin Powers and punching her in the face and going, "She's a man, baby." Because like the same hairdo as Basil's mother.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right, Zach, what do you have?
What are the categories again?
Sick man, douchebag, and most punchable face.
Been talking, so I can't remember any of them. Stickman, I was gonna go with Mrs. Doubtfire and Daniel's father. The guy's he's a GI in Europe. He's in London at the time, and he just meets this broad and picks up these British ladies. I mean, that's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive stickman work there.
Great call.
It's Burgess Meredith territory. Let's see, punchable face. Well, I think we got to go with the delivery guy. I mean, I think that's borderline Hall of Fame punchable face territory we're at. And then for douchebag, I mean, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say Daniel. I mean, that was the big takeaway for me watching this movie. Like the cards were stacked so much for him in this movie. He's an asshole. Like the way that, he's like, oh, hey, Miranda, let me watch the kids after school. Yeah, it'd be great. I mean, that's a dick thing to say, and he doesn't have a job. He doesn't seem to care about anything except his kids. And, he's sweet and he's Robin Williams and we love Robin Williams just instinctively. But let me tell you, if this performance had been by like Greg Kinnear, we would hate him. I mean, there's no likability there whatsoever. It's just that it's Robin Williams, but his motives are terrible.
I think
So he's
says
a
more
douchebag.
about Greg Kinnear than the character.
It's possible.
I mean, you had to pick Greg Kinnear. All right. Best scene is what, Zach?
Okay, well, I actually have a number of picks here. I think that one of the scenes that really I'm gonna go funny scene and serious scene. The serious scene that I didn't remember as well, but really stuck out to me was when Lydia apologizes to Mrs. Doubtfire outside the house and they forgive each other. That's a wonderful little scene. That's where this movie, I think, makes itself better than the others, because there's a real heart and soul to this movie that I think is really great. And I actually also love the scene when Mrs. Doubtfire talks to Miranda about her marriage. I mean, that's a good scene. Like that's not farce. That's obviously important stuff.
Howard agrees.
I would. Yeah, thank you, Coward. The best sequence in the movie, the best comic sequence in the movie. I mean, we could go with Bridges. We could go with the crank calls. I don't know. Any comic sequence. I guess I'll go with the whole Bridges thing. I mean, that's great comedy. That's high comedy.
The whole last half hour. That's several scenes.
All right, you want me to pick like one thing specifically?
Yeah.
Well, then can I go with the crank calls? Because that's a shorter segment. That's probably like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Mine was on a similar vein. It was and it was one I had completely forgotten about. It's when what's her name? The one that we've been talking about this whole time, Anne Haney, Mrs. Sellner asks him, "Do you have any skills?"
Yeah.
And
I was prepared to get all the things that he references there for trivia, but Zach didn't go there.
Yeah, and he just goes off for like a minute on all the different voices he can do. And
yeah, Groucho Marx. He had Ronald Reagan. He had I think he was just a sausage for hot dogs.
I mean, that I had completely forgotten that scene existed, and it was so funny. It was Robin Williams doing his Robin Williams thing the most. So, yeah. Todd.
I mean, I have quite a few. I pretty much like every time that Daniel and Stu are together, whether it's at the pool and they're like doing their whole back and forth, or at the restaurant.
Oh, it was a drive-by fruiting.
Run by fruiting. At the restaurant, or like every time that he's trying to like divert him or something kind of, when they first meet too, like just like the little things to say to each other. But I'm gonna go with when Mrs. Sellner comes to Danny's place, because that I think is Robin Williams absolutely doing his thing. He's like at full speed, like going down the hall, changing, coming back while he's still like doing his thing in both voices. That's Robin Williams like Oscar tape right there, And obviously Mrs. Sellner is my favorite minor character. So,
and you really hate those Asian kids across the street.
Yeah, well, I mean that speaks.
I mean, there's a lot of douchebags in this movie. I think they're probably numbers 45. We're talking about number 8. You're talking about number 692. So I think they're deep down on the list somewhere.
Well played. Well played.
What was that from?
Apollo 13.
Apollo 13.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Apollo 13 Reasons Why. No, Apollo 13 Hours.
Lives.
13 Lives.
Regal quote of the movie.
Oh yeah, we got some good ones here.
I went with I'm getting hot flashes.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's definitely in play. First day as a woman, I'm getting hot flashes. You wouldn't include that
first
part?
day as a woman, and I'm getting hot flashes. Yeah.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, I mean that's the other one.
Yeah.
That's the other one I was thinking of.
Well, there's one thing that like Trish and I used to always quote to each other, which was like Like when Miranda first sees that it was Daniel the whole time, she's like, the whole time? And she's like, I have to go. We have to leave now. I have to leave. We're leaving now. We're going. It's like she's just like in another world, just like spitting out words, and it's just like her cadence and everything is just so perfect. I mean, I could easily see that being replicated in some way. I don't know. I'm not sure how it would fit into that commercial, but
I had a side question about that. Was this the worst birthday ever? I mean, in the Hall of Fame of worst birthdays, I think that one playoff game where Jake Delhomme threw like 6 interceptions was on his birthday.
Well,
I mean,
but
you
then
have.
again,
I think you have 2 candidates for worst
yeah,
birthday ever in this movie.
the kid's mom asked his father for a divorce on his birthday. That's gotta be pretty bad.
Now that's a great point. I had forgot that was his birthday. We're talking 2 birthdays in this family ruined consecutively. That's a solid point there. So whose birthday gets ruined next? The Matilda's?
So alternate title of maybe the all right. I think we might need to have a separate category, alternate title of the movie. And I think the alternate title of this movie would be worst birthdays ever.
Yeah, shit birthdays. It's even worse than Liar's birthday when his dad didn't show up.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
A lot of birthdays in these.
He did give
movies.
him baseball stuff though.
That's true. Wasn't it Jose Canseco?
Baseball stuff. However, yeah, well, it was. Well, Anne Haney is the one that bought that baseball stuff. So,
conspiracy theory.
Let's bring it all full circle here. Yeah. Okay. Wait, I almost forgot the Nicole Kidman Movie Companion Award for this movie would go to who? Who would you want to see a movie with?
I still don't even understand the category. Like, this is such an inside joke, and I don't even understand the joke.
Character you'd want to see a movie with.
And narrate going into the movie.
Just
obviously be Daniel Hillard, because he would introduce the movie and do all the voices, and it would be like, he introduces the movie. It would be like Mankiewicz on TV. That's what he thinks his job is, so he'd be great at it.
I mean, that's true. It's true. It'd be like full on Mystery Science Theater moment there.
Todd doesn't get the award, so he respectfully declines.
I'm just looking at the cast here, and I was thinking either Martin Mull, because I don't know, that seems like it would be fun, or there's a character, I don't even know when it comes up. There's a character, Betsy Monroe is credited as Stunning Woman. That'd be a great.
Yeah.
Oh, at the pool. Okay.
She's also in my what's the word? Characters I want to know more about. Minor characters.
Anyways, that was we'll have to remember that one, or maybe not, for next time. Do you guys have ideas for a sequel?
There was supposed to be a Mrs. Doubtfire 2 for many years that was in development, and it never came to fruition, obviously.
I didn't know this was based on a book.
It's based on, I think, a kid's book. And
I mean, that would make sense.
Yeah, I was talking. They did the behind the scenes. I watched that, and they said in the book the parents get back together, and then they switched that for the ending because they didn't think it was realistic. This was a big project for Robin Williams' wife at the time. She was like the head honcho of everything.
I was thinking, like, if there were a sequel now, like the kids are all grown up and they go to like their dad's funeral since Robin Williams is no longer around, and then
it's on their birthday. Another shitty birthday where they go see dad in the cemetery. Yeah,
I don't know, but that sounds like the makings of a crappy movie. So I don't know.
Did you guys ever have a shitty birthday? I mean, I had a birthday once where I had two of my friends got into a fist fight. My 10th birthday, no 11th. It was at a pizza parlor. It was pretty traumatic.
I mean, there was this one birthday that I had where I wasn't home. I was off somewhere else, and all I wanted for my birthday was just an omelet at a nice diner, because I had to be there for my buddy who was getting married the day before, and I mean that one was kind of weird, but
nice.
Well, there was that one year on Todd's birthday when aliens came and destroyed it, and Will Smith had to save the world.
Yeah.
That was a pretty shitty birthday.
Or there was Todd's birthday where you showed up. I mean, that was.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of good nominees.
There are some good nominees. There's some good ones there. There's some good ones. All right. Flaws, outdated conspiracy theories, anything like that. I had one thought here. So the cops show up because you can't have barnyard animals in the city. Why in the world would a mobile petting zoo even show up there if he knew he was gonna get a ticket for showing up?
An evil petting zoo?
That explains it.
It was run by Dr. Evil. Maybe Scott. That was my one thought. It's like, I mean, the cops show up because the mobile petting zoo stopped at this house. Then why would they stop at the house if they knew it was illegal to do so?
I want to know more about that mobile petting zoo. I mean, that
how
seems
did all
like
those animals fit in that?
Some
in
serious,
that van?
yeah, animal rights violations.
There were only a few of them. I feel like there was a donkey and then there was a horse.
And the ducks and the rabbits and the.
There were.
The horse had a lot to drink.
I want to know more about how they were dancing on top of the piano or whatever. Like they were all in sync and they kept going
the
too.
Chandelier. Some good stuff. Do you guys have anything?
Yeah, I have some stuff I want to say. Or
all right,
some stuff I want to say.
well, I mean, one of the things just random is the woman in the restroom that he's changing in the women's restroom.
She's been in the movie. I've seen her before. But go ahead.
She looks like Meryl playing Julia Child, and
that's a good call.
And Julia Child was mentioned in the cartoon at the beginning of the movie, so it all just kind of made sense. I thought it may have been Julia Child, honestly. I also want to know, since when does consuming your allergy, the food you're allergic to, make you swallow a whole shellfish?
That was my okay.
And also, how does coughing it up cure your allergy? That's what I want to know too.
So you needed an EpiPen, not the Heimlich.
That's exactly a conspiracy theory I had. How does being allergic to pepper give you that reaction? So my conspiracy theory is it had nothing to do with his allergy. He just swallowed it wrong.
And who's allergic to pepper?
Yeah, that never made sense. But I mean, there's more issues. So also, how did Daniel still land the gig as Mrs. Doubtfire? Was Lundy just that drunk?
He was drunk.
Because he gets up and he runs from the table, makes a scene for the entire place, rips his face off. I mean,
Lundy's desperate. Their network stinks. It's bringing down the afternoon lineup.
Like, do they just like figure like, oh, eventually I'll let him do his thing, and like after he's been exposed, be like, oh, he's obviously really talented, I'll just give the show to him. But no, he actually must have gone back, put him back on his face, and went back to the meeting and landed the gig as Mrs. Doubtfire again. It makes no sense.
It absolutely makes sense. If he's desperate enough to go to the shipping and boxing department to find content ideas, then he's going to go with anything that will work.
But why doesn't he just like be like, okay, you obviously know I'm talented, just give me the job or whatever. Also, it's I just wrote down, it's clearly nighttime and Miranda says that she needs to go to the bank and the market. Like, they're getting done with dinner. It's clearly night. She's gotten off of work and the bank is obviously going to be closed. I don't get that. Obviously, also her cell and her landline must be the same number because that's what she keeps getting called on for the job.
Good call.
And also, how does she get a hold of Mrs. Doubtfire? Because she would know that the number that she's calling would be Daniel's number. I mean, you could get yourself down a hole, and I did when I was watching. I was just like, I need to stop thinking about these things because I'm just getting distracted from the movie. It makes no sense.
That's some good stuff. You did have some stuff you needed to say.
Yeah.
All right, Zach, do you have anything?
Since when is San Francisco the hub of all TV and movie production?
Oh, I was thinking that too.
And animation production and animation where the voiceover is done after the animation. How does this soundtrack include, everything from Dude Looks Like a Lady to, all these songs about being a woman, and does not include Lola by the Kinks? I mean, that seems like an oversight. Let's see. Beth Grant should have played Lundy's secretary. That's the Beth Grant role.
Yes.
So we had in who would Beth Grant play? I mean, that might need to be a category now.
Yeah, if the party at the beginning was the most epic party since Babylon. It had some similarities to the Babylon orgy, I thought, with the animals involved. And then would these kids really watch Dick Van Dyke? I mean, I think Dick Van Dyke's kind of a lame show. I don't. Would they really be like Chris? Christopher's failing all of his classes. Would he really be into it?
They're watching like old black and white horror movies though. Like, it was probably like a Vincent Price movie or something.
That stuff was on TV. I get it.
Yeah,
I watched old stuff back then.
Yeah.
And then the last thing was, did you guys ever see the preview for Eye for an Eye, the Sally Field movie that came out a little bit after this? Where, do you know what I'm talking about, that movie at all? Oh, okay. No. I made a funny joke about it to my wife, but apparently it's going to go over your heads. The joke was she didn't hire a nanny in that movie, and that's why her daughter got abducted. She should have hired Mrs. Doubtfire. Also a San Francisco movie.
There we go. So it's good. All right, let's wrap this up. LVP, MVP, and then we'll move on to quote of the day. I'm going to go first. My LVP is Mr. Lundy, because who keeps what was his name? What's his name on the air for 25 years?
Mr. Sprinkles.
Mr. Sprinkles. Who keeps Mr. Sprinkles on the air for 25 years when he sucks? I mean, he's the worst. He's a terrible.
It's like we're in last place. I'm gonna get rid of this show.
It's why
did that make him the MVP? That should make him
LVP. He's the LVP. Okay. Yeah. No, the MVP is Christopher Prey as the puppeteer, because for them to be able to find a guy to puppet and voice Kovacs that can keep up with Robin Williams as Mrs. Doubtfire, and all the crazy improv and ranting and raving he does is pretty awesome. So he was the MVP, because without him, his after school show doesn't work. I went with.
Nice.
Todd, what do you got?
So LVP, I had two written down. I got the maitre d', because he takes reservations, and he has the reservations written down, but then he has to ask smoking or non-smoking. So he's gonna overbook one of the two at some point, because he doesn't know where they actually want to sit. That makes him an LVP. It also is just another flaw with the movie, I think. And also pre-Zoom meetings with absolute strangers is also an LVP, because it would never happen if you could just interview someone over the phone. And then my MVP is Steven Tyler, because dude looks like a lady is pretty much the perfect thing for this entire movie to be set to.
Great call. All right, Zach.
Okay, my MVP. No, sorry, my MVP. Then we all start MVP is Holly Holiday, who plays Gloria, and what's the neighbor character who rats out the birthday party. And the reason is she's billed fifth in this movie, which means that she's above all the children. She's above Mr. Lundy, Mrs. Sellner. The only people she's not billed above are the main three and Harvey Fierstein. And the reason she's MVP is because, for one thing, she could say she was fifth billed in this blockbuster movie, but her scenes suck. And I should say her deleted scenes, because there is an extended subplot with her in the deleted scenes to this movie that involve lots more with this character, and it's painfully unfunny. So she gets the credit, which is great. And she's an MVP because her scenes actually didn't go to air or didn't go in the film, and they suck. So I think she comes out of this movie a big winner. And I think the LVP of this movie is Ron Howard, because how did he not direct it?
But Chris Columbus, though, I mean, when I saw that, like,
an admirable job, but this is the most
much sense.
This is the most Ron Howard movie of all time.
No, it's a Chris Columbus movie.
It does have some Chris Columbus
Parenthood-ish elements, I guess.
I mean, Home Alone. I mean, coming off of that and some of the other, in 10 years he's directing Harry Potter. I mean, this is about right for him.
With real British people.
I'm gonna say the MVP is my Harvey Fierstein impression. That's the
sounds kind of like your Al Pacino impression.
It's a little bit like that. It's like that too. Okay. All right. Well, with that, we're going to draw this podcast to a close. Thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure you're subscribing, rating, reviewing, checking out everything else we have going on. This week's Daily Notes also highlights, or no, last week's Daily Notes also highlights Mrs. Doubtfire. So you can just kind of do the
But
Mrs.
we were
Doubtfire
we
double
were
feature.
funnier, right?
We were
Did
definitely
Adam-
longer.
We certainly made more Anne Haney and Boy Meets World references.